So we're here with some of the creative team behind the invite. Olivia, I'll start with something for you. Being here at the festival, acting and I Want Your Sex, and then also acting and directing with the invite, does this moment feel like some kind of a reset for you?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great feeling. I think that this festival this year feels so exciting. I think because it's the last, because it's a whole thing is a memorial to Redford. To be here now with these two movies and specifically with the invite, which was just such a labor of love and truly the best experience of my career, hands down, because of the team we had, because of this collective spirit of enthusiasm, and it just couldn't have been a better experience. So absolutely, yeah.
And what was it about the screenplay for the invite that made you want to work in this unusual way, workshopping with the actors, shooting in chronological order?
It felt like I had been looking for so long for something that would allow for this kind of experiment, for something that would allow actors to shoot in order, together, workshopping material with rehearsal time. I was like, why can't we approach a movie like a play? Wouldn't it be cool to be able to do this? And many movies, it's impossible to shoot in order because you got to move to different locations and it's just impossible. And I thought if I could get actors to plug into this with as much love for it as I feel like I have, this is going to be amazing. And the script just was so welcoming to that. It was so ripe and fertile for that.
And Edward, how did you find working in this method?
It was beyond wonderful. It was like, and I think Olivia's being modest. I think she created the environment and this environment for incredibly intimate work, and also, you know, from the drop really said, like, listen, we have this template of this wonderful Spanish film that we should, you know, give a shout out to because it's a brilliant but it's a brilliant film. But she said, Olivia was like, look, I love the scenario and I love the concept, but I really want to make a film where Seth and Penelope and Edward and where we bring our own baggage, our own ideas. I mean, to get invited essentially to write and shape your own character, and then collide and bounce and improvise with it's just the dream. And it doesn't. We were talking about this. It doesn't always work. Like that can be quite dangerous. And there are many directors for whom that would be a nightmare. The idea of Seth or I showing up and saying, you know what I was thinking that Hawk should do here, and with Olivia it was always yes and more, and that is that to do that with equanimity and enthusiasm as opposed to getting tight is like that's like what I associate with Mike Nichols films and Woody Allen films, which is what, when I watched this last night, that's what this reminded me of, is like what I love about Mike Nichols films, and I think Olivia really set the table in a way that very few directors have the confidence to do.
And Seth, how did you find working in this way? And was it similar to when you would make the Judd Apatow films and it would be a mix of like scripted and sort of improv material?
It did have some similarities. I think it was much more focused in some ways than we would be with those movies. We would just shoot, we would shoot everything, you know,
on film, which is amazing.
Yes, exactly. And
much
this,
film.
I think, you know, we actually worked really hard in the rehearsal process to like really try to focus the story and kind of restructure the film in a way that it allowed for what they're talking about, where like there was like these propulsive sections to the movie that had, you know, turns that led you into the next section. And that was something that we talked a lot about, was like, how do we, you know, all kind of contribute to our characters and feel as though we're making a deeply personal thing, but how do we structure it in a way that it really is like moving and taking turns and being unpredictable while also like pressurizing itself more and more simultaneously. So I'd say like, yeah, like it did feel very unique to me because the actual like structure of the film changed quite a bit, especially in the weeks leading up to shooting. And then as we were actually shooting it, which honestly is like not a thing I'd experienced. It is generally a thing that would probably stressed me out a lot. But in this case, it just seemed like it was working, and it seemed like as long as we were able to like stick the landing, then it would all work, hopefully.
We were able to, because we were shooting sequentially, we could feel when the momentum needed a shift. It was like a physical thing. We were like, okay, now knowing how this went today, that really needs to go up in energy, or now we really need to like ease off, or there needs to be quiet. And it was so kind of instinctual for everyone that we really kind of knew where we needed to move.
Yeah.
And then, as I understand it, Edward, Seth, originally Olivia was not going to be appearing in this as an actor, and the two of you had to convince her to act in her own film.
Yes.
This sounds very unusual to me. Can you explain?
I would say, to me, it's crazy. Someone who only makes movies and television so I can perform in them, essentially. She kept emailing us and texting us names of like
What about
literally
so-and-so?
every other actress
What
in
about
Hollywood.
so-and-so? It was like,
and me and Edward were on like a separate text chain with each other, just like, what is
her
doing?
problem?
What is happening right now? And eventually, I just started like outwardly just being like, you should do it. I don't get why you're not doing
also,
it. I would rather do it with you than any of these other people. We were funny together on our show. And so I thought like, it seems like we have a good dynamic, and we seem to kind of come with like a very good sense of each other's timing and kind of referential base in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And I was so glad. And the second we started shooting the scene, they were the first day is like, because again, we shot in order. So like basically the first day is me like arriving at the apartment and us like really kind of going at each other pretty hard right away. And I remember just being like, this is so funny. And like, it feels so alive. And our ability to kind of weave in and out of one another's rhythms. And,
we could hear each other. We could overlap with each other, but hear each other perfectly through it, which was so like when we're yelling at each other, it never became, sometimes I think when you're improvising, it can become like redundant because you don't realize the other person's already said that thing.
Yeah.
And you're not, but it was like somehow we could hear each other on two different levels.
Yeah, we were able to really like in a very fast, seamless rhythm, like interweave a lot of improv dialogue with one another. That was, and I remember doing it being like, oh, this is great. Thank God I'm not stuck with someone else.
One of my favorite moments is when we're describing, and this is a spoiler, but when we're saying why we think it's a good idea that we should have this group sex experience, and we're simultaneously giving our reason, and he's like, I don't fuck enough. And I'm going like, I think it would allow for expansion. And it's simultaneous, but somehow
you hear them both.
You can hear them both.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
And this is exactly the kind of movie that they say sort of like Hollywood doesn't make anymore, a dramedy for adults. Do you worry about that as you're making the movie, or do you feel like you just have to make it and worry about that stuff afterwards?
Oh, yeah, I don't think you can worry about that while you're making it at all. Yeah, I mean, it made me feel really lucky that we were making it. I think we were aware it was a singular experience, but yeah, no, definitely didn't think about it.
There comes a point, too, where if you've done this all long enough, you sort of think to yourself, like, look, the movies that made me want to make movies, like Manhattan and Annie Hall and Carnal Knowledge and like the movies or Heartburn, Nora Ephron, you say like, we're not kids anymore. We want to make those films. Like you want to wade into the deeper end of things, and I think you have to have a conviction that there are also lots of other adult people who, can only take so much of the kind of, the pablum that's out there. And I think if you can do it, if you can come up with a version of it as Olivia did, where like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, you're just on one set, and but you're gonna still make it a big film in the sense of about big things and about things that people relate to, then you can figure that formula out. Like a movie like this doesn't need to cost like a lot of money, and that's how, and so you can figure out how to get it done. But
the stress off.
Yeah, for sure. But I think
cut the dinosaurs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You need the alien attack.
The earthquake has a catalytic effect in the middle.
But we should have added a labubu
Oh man, there's time.
at the end of the day.
I could do it.
Olivia, last night on the red carpet, you were wearing an Ice Out button. You're wearing a Be Good button today. And I think a lot of people are struggling with how to be at something like Sundance, while being aware of what's happening in Minnesota. How are you handling that?
It's really complex. It's really, I think that there's a great tradition of storytelling that's helped humans, get through difficult times for many, many centuries. And I hope that allowing people to laugh last night felt good. But, we're very aware that, Americans right now are out on the streets marching, and courageously so. And it's devastating. It's devastating. But, in a tiny way, wearing a pin does nothing, but at least we're able to, show support. I'm able to show support for those protesters who I admire so much.
I think it's a very, very, you almost can't participate in the privilege and kind of the fun of films and everything. We all want to, but these are not normal times, and it's like we have extrajudicial assaults on Americans and humans going on a daily basis now, and it's not okay. And even though all people kind of have to put one foot in front of the other and deal with the demands of the day, we cannot act like this is not happening. And I think I think what they're doing in Minnesota with the strike needs to expand. I think we should be talking about a national general economic strike until this is over and stopped.
And just one last thing, Olivia, on the film at the end, there's a dedication for Diane. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's dedicated to Diane Keaton, who meant a lot to me. And yeah, I mean, there's so much about this movie that she, I think, has inspired. Certainly my character is so Diane. And she really formed me as an actress, but just by watching her my whole life. And then I had the chance to play her daughter in a film, and she was so kind and supportive to me and so encouraging to be, as a director, just told me to go for it. So for me, the film is for Diane.